PNW is crazy right now. I've been trying to post this video for the past month, and every time I think it's finished, something new happens which changes everything. Hopefully this video is accurate for at least a few months, but I can't promise that. So what is the current political landscape of politics and war? Multipolarity. Let's start by drawing a map. At a glance, the alliances are split into 5 different groups, which we refer to as spheres. Only 4 of them are important, because they have vastly more economic and military power. The diplomats that lead these spheres believe in something called the balance of powers. This means they are constantly trying to increase their strength to rival the others, and if one of the 4 gets too powerful, the others will team up to attack them. Secret treaties. There are no alliances bridging or connecting the spheres, and no formal agreements between the alliances to work together. There are, however, informal relationships between alliances in different spheres that are used to procure information and work together during wars. There is a fierce debate around whether these informal relationships and agreements, otherwise known as secret treaties, are good for the game. I think most people playing politics and war agree they have a negative effect on the game, but they refuse to stop using them since it's convenient. The most successful diplomats in the game agree that they have a negative effect, but they have the most eloquent justifications for why they need to use them in that moment. Anyway, let's not get too off track. There are 4 spheres and some secret relationships and agreements between them. So who are these spheres? This is the first time I've ventured into political commentary on this channel, so I'm going to give the diplomats among you an opportunity. If you disagree with my description of the spheres, then post in the comments section. As for everyone else, go read the comments at the end, and defend my honor if they're pretty harsh. Hollywood Bloc was formed in 2021, and it is home to the largest nations in the game. The 3 most well-known alliances in their sphere are the Knights Radiant, Grumpy, and the Immortals. All 3 of them are considered great powers, and are well known for their low taxes. They are considered by many to be the strongest sphere in the game right now, because most of the largest nations are in Grumpy. Rival diplomats argue that having all the largest nations in one sphere, and furthermore one alliance, stagnates the game, and disrupts the balance of powers. So a lot of political discussions about Hollywood revolve around that topic. In summary, they are the most powerful sphere with the biggest target on their back, and that will only change if Grumpy or Guardian leave. Syndisphere is the informal name of Blackwater Bloc. The most well-known alliances in their sphere are the Syndicate, and well, there are other alliances there, but none to rival them. They are rumoured to be the wealthiest of all the spheres, which is quite in line with their theme, and universally perceived to be the safest. The Syndicate and its allies lost the least money of any sphere last year, and grew dramatically, perhaps even enough to rival Grumpy later this year. Unlike the other spheres, which are all relatively new, Syndisphere is living in the shadow of its past accomplishments. Horse made a thread on the forums outlining their current failings. It's worth a read whether you like the Syndicate or not, because it will likely shape their public relations for the next few months. For those that don't want to read 20,000 words, the claims were that Syndicate was shouting people down and being dishonorable. Syndicate sort of agreed with the criticism at the end, but said that their alliance culture was at odds with the rest of the game, and that they wouldn't silence their members. Rose Sphere is the informal name of Mile High Sphere. Wait a minute? They formally created a sphere instead of a block. They formalized a sphere of influence. They formalized the fact that they have influence and control over everyone around them. That casual disrespect either got one of their diplomats fired or demonstrates a level of influence hitherto unseen in PNW. I'm getting sidetracked. The most well-known alliances in the Rose Sphere are Rose and the Commonwealth. Rose is the largest alliance in the game, but their sphere's nations are distributed across every tier, so they're competitive everywhere, but not dominant anywhere. Rose relied on soft power to become the largest alliance in the game. They made friends and they kept quiet. Most people thought they were a side character, whilst they were expertly puppeteering half the game. Or herding cats, as they might describe it. That Rose is gone. They have new diplomats and they are behaving very differently. They expanded their sphere and they have been growing their hard power. The new Rose has rivals and enemies, and people should keep an eye on them. They aren't a side character. They never really were. Clock Bloc was formed in 2021 and fought 2 major wars in December. The 3 most well-known alliances in Clock are Cataclysm, Hand Fate, and Eclipse. Clock is the most militaristic group in the game currently, and winning wars is a big part of their identity. This combination of traits makes them the loudest and the most abrasive sphere with the fewest friends, though plenty of people will still work with them since they're willing to fight anyone. Regarding war, Clock has a high tier comparable to Hollywood Bloc, so they will either roll Hollywood, get rolled by Hollywood, or get rolled by someone else for not rolling Hollywood. Politics is fun like that. Conflict in 2022. There were a lot of wars last year, and there are going to be a lot of wars this year. The game has grown and changed, and people want to fight more frequently and for shorter durations. This disproportionately benefits the alliances with the largest nations, since it takes a long time to grow large nations, and constant war prevents their rivals from doing that. This might also be the first year without non-aggression pacts. Most of the great powers made a pledge not to sign them last year. I think the only thing more interesting than them keeping the pledge, and trying to get others to make it, would be if one of the great powers broke it. Would they be attacked for that? And if they were, that would be a totally unique war that would likely reshape the game's politics. Lower tier politics. A huge chunk of the player base is not in the 4 largest spheres. Many of you are playing from smaller alliances with an average city count of 15 or less. Frankly, you're playing a completely different game. In the lower tier, wars are much more frequent, alliances have shorter lifespans, and treaties between alliances are rarely honored. The diplomats you deal with in that tier are often immature and don't understand how the game works. They either think they can single-handedly destroy your alliance, or that the war will instantly collapse theirs. Lower tier has a culture and political landscape of its own, and the most successful alliances are the most aggressive and confident. All those big spheres and alliances I've mentioned prior have been humbled and unofficially defeated by lower tier alliances. All of them, without exception. How are alliances so much smaller than them able to win? It was mostly due to war ranges. If you have more active nations at City 15 and below than they do, you're going to win the wars. They can increase their investment in the lower tier, but that's expensive and time-consuming. The final thing you should remember about the lower tier is that there were alliances with no members, no money, no allies, that have succeeded and reached the top 10. There are very few, but you can always tell who they are, because they don't look or sound like other alliances. They're self-deprecating but stubborn. The political landscape is currently defined by retrospection and discussion about what the game should be. I've avoided participating in many of these discussions, but I have listened, and although I wasn't initially planning to include the Fighting Pacifists, United Purple Nations, and Camelot in this video, I've changed my mind. There are many alliances that have been thrown out of the major spheres, or that have voluntarily left. This doesn't make them irrelevant. They can be amongst the most interesting alliances in the game, creating content when no one else will. However, they are still on the periphery of the game's politics, and there are limits on what they can realistically do. There are currently more alliances than ever outside of the major spheres, but at the same time we're entering a phase of extreme consolidation, where the spheres are getting bigger, and the number of capable alliances is growing. This year will be characterized by fierce competition, and I'm not sure where those outcasts will lie in the system. I don't know if they'll be changing the tide in major conflicts, or be completely forgotten. I know this isn't the most comprehensive video, and I do hope to complement it with a video about the Great Powers. I haven't ventured into political commentary that much, so if that's something you want more of, then let me know in the comments below. Or if you think I should go back to making tutorials and creating more useful things for the game, then let me know too. Share the video with people you think might be interested, and like and subscribe. Thanks.